lighter image to start this Friday. Santa scuba diving, doling out gifts to the fishes, and wowing a crowd of children at an aquarium in Japan. And not wanting to leave anyone out, Santa's helper, making sure some penguins got some treats as well. Just one way cheer is being spread as we approach the holiday season. Tonight, just ahead of the holidays, some unwelcome news, though, for your wallet. Inflation now hitting a near 40-year high in the U.S., increasing nearly 7% in the last 12 months. Prices rising on everything heading into the new year. Gas, food, clothes, furniture. Will prices go down? The decision for the Supreme Court is in on that restrictive Texas abortion law. Tonight, some are calling the nuanced opinion a dark day for Texas abortion rights. So what happens next? Terry Moran is standing by. Tonight, the COVID concern. Delta cases continuing to spike. Delta is still the dominant strain here in the U.S. as we learn more tonight about how Omicron is spreading in South Africa. The major storm making its way across the country tonight, the snow concerns, the tornado worry, and the major weather change coming to part of the country. Our Ginger Z is tracking it all. What's the secret to living a long, healthy life? Well, certain communities appear to have figured it out, living far longer than the rest of us. We have their secrets to help improve your life, and one of them might surprise you. Oh, yeah! And teaming up to help make dreams come true, both on and off the field in Los Angeles. Meet the police turned coaches, changing kids' lives and changing a community's perception of those who protect them every day.
I always thought they were lazy, didn't do nothing. And I came to the Watch Rams and I realized how hard they work.
So when you think about police officers now, what do you think?
I think they're heroes.
Good evening. I'm Juju Chang in for Lindsay Davis tonight. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin tonight with your money and the highest inflation in a generation. Households and businesses forced to adapt to a new reality of higher prices. The government's report out today showed consumer prices have surged nearly 7% in the last year alone, the highest spike in almost 40 years. And it's impacting close to everything we all buy and all across the country, from $5 gas in California. And to even be able to get gas, you need to drive a car. Used car prices are up a staggering 31% this year. And then, of course, there's surging grocery prices. What you've had to pay at the supermarket is up 6.5% in the last 12 months. That's the largest increase since 2008. And a sign of the times here in New York tonight, 99-cent pizza now selling for $1.25 a slice. So is there any relief on the horizon? Our chief business correspondent, Rebecca Jarvis, leads us off tonight. Rebecca?
Tonight, Americans crushed under the highest inflation levels in nearly 4 decades.
The price of almost everything is going up, and it's going up very quickly.
Consumer prices last month surging nearly 7% compared to 1 year ago, the fastest pace since 1982.
People are spending a lot more than they were before. And as people buy more, that's driving up prices.
President Biden today blaming supply chain issues and assuring the rising prices are temporary.
It's a real bump in the road. It does affect families. It's not gone down quickly enough, but I think it will.
The biggest inflation explosion in a generation, coming as unemployment falls to near pre-pandemic levels and job openings outnumber those looking for work. But the soaring costs are unavoidable.
What you used to get, no problem, now you have to say, okay, maybe I'll get it next month.
Grocery prices up nearly 6.5%. Meats, poultry, fish, and eggs up nearly 13%. With beef rising more than 20%. Housing up nearly 4%. Gas prices jumping to their highest level in 7 years. And used cars and trucks climbing more than 30% from last year. Our Victor Akendo is in Miami, where that increase has people rushing to buy cars.
Cars are moving so quickly here at Prestige Auto Miami. The manager tells me that his customers aren't even coming to the lot, much less test driving them. He's selling half of his cars through FaceTime. Customers are eager to buy before prices jump again.
They want to secure the car because there's no cars.
And Rebecca Jarvis joins us now. Rebecca, we heard the president calling the rising inflation a bump in the road, but some economists say we may need to get used to the high prices for the foreseeable future.
Yes, Juju, most economists believe that this inflation will persist into next year, many forecasting it will continue into the spring. And keep in mind, these supply issues, while some of the supply chain has recovered more recently, are still global, and there are still problems out there, particularly when it comes to the American U.S. labor market. Most people who want a job have a job, but there are still Americans waiting to return to work until they see wages rise more significantly, having saved $2 trillion throughout the course of the pandemic. Now, when you still have people spending money on a shorter and smaller supply of goods, that causes what you see here, inflation. And many expectations are now that the Federal Reserve will have to step in and hike interest rates, increase the cost of borrowing on everything from your home loan, your mortgage, to your credit cards, to your car loans, in order to slow down spending overall and cool things off for this economy, Juju.
The ripple effects continue, thanks to you, RJ. And now to the Supreme Court decision on the Texas law that bans nearly all abortions in that state. The High Court has allowed the law to remain in place while permitting abortion providers a narrow path to challenge it. The case is not about the underlying issue of abortion, but rather on the law's unique enforcement mechanisms. ABC's Terry Moran covers the Supreme Court and unpacks what this all means.
Today's ruling by the 5 most conservative justices on the court, the Texas law known as SB 8, which has effectively banned almost all abortions in the state for 101 days, can remain in effect for now. SB 8 empowers private citizens, not government officials, to enforce the abortion ban by bringing private lawsuits. Justice Neil Gorsuch, in an opinion for the court, declaring that courts cannot simply order all private citizens not to file those suits, and so the Supreme Court does not have the power to strike SB 8 down. One thing this court may never do is disregard the traditional limits on the federal courts just to see a favored result win the day, Gorsuch wrote. Chief Justice John Roberts, who was on the losing side, warning that the clear purpose and actual effect of the Texas law was to nullify this court's rulings. But today's opinion does allow a much narrower legal challenge to SB 8 to proceed against a few state officials in Texas. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, in an impassioned dissent, declaring the court should have put an end to this madness months ago, and warning the court leaves all manner of constitutional rights more vulnerable than ever before, to the great detriment of our Constitution and our republic. And at the White House, Press Secretary Jen Psaki called on Congress to act to enshrine the right to choose abortion in federal law.
The ruling this morning is a reminder of how much these rights are at risk.
And now we bring in ABC's Terry Moran. Terry, so bottom line, abortion remains almost entirely banned in Texas, but could that change as this case works its way back through the courts?
It could, Juju, but it's a long shot, really, because what the court did here was not slam the courthouse door on those people who are trying to overturn the Texas law, but it's only open a crack, a very narrow passage for those people trying to overturn the Texas law, trying to restore that constitutional right to choose abortion to women in Texas. The court did not leave them much leeway. What they'll have to do is bring a new suit targeting just a few government officials who are involved in this process and hope that a judge will use that to overturn the entire law. It is, as I say, a real long shot.
And of course, we're all still looking ahead to the court's ruling on that Mississippi abortion law, which could potentially overturn Roe v. Wade.
That is the big one, no question, Juju. And you're right. That is the case that could overturn Roe versus Wade. For the justices to uphold that Mississippi law, which bans virtually all abortion, no exception for rape or incest, before 15 weeks, for them to uphold that law, they would have to overturn or gut Roe versus Wade. And based on the oral arguments earlier this month, that is exactly what the conservatives are aiming for. They were talking not about whether they should overturn Roe versus Wade, but how they would do it. And if they did, that would mean this Texas law would stand, and there would be many, many more laws limiting, banning, criminalizing abortion that would follow. Juju?
So much legal history ahead. Thanks so much, Terry Moran. And we turn now to the COVID-19 pandemic, and the country is once again battling a new winter surge while bracing for the potential impact of the Omicron variant. New York is now imposing a statewide mask mandate at all public places and indoor businesses. It's one of 30 states where hospitalizations are up 10% or more. And there's a new forecast about what we could see in the coming weeks. Here's ABC's Whit Johnson.
Tonight, the original epicenter in the U.S., bringing back a statewide mask mandate. New York's governor announcing the requirement for all public places and businesses indoors starting Monday, unless customers are checked for proof of vaccination.
This is a crisis of the unvaccinated. Those are the individuals that are 10 times more likely to be in our hospitals, creating undue stress on those poor healthcare workers who've been through hell and back. And this is where I get angry.
New York facing a sharp rise in hospitalizations, up 86% in the last month. Kamisha Salmon owns TP Toys and Accessories in New Rochelle and says she follows the science but worries about enforcing the mandate.
It's just putting us at physical risk. I've seen different situations where people's asked for a mask or a vaccination card and it became physical. I do not want to put us in that situation.
So you're worried somebody could actually get violent in here over something?
I'm very worried about that.
From Colorado to Minnesota, the military deploying medical teams to help battle the surge fueled by the Delta variant. In New Mexico, Navy medics pitching in to treat patients at San Juan Regional, where the ICU is topping 200% capacity. And some hospitals in Pennsylvania running out of beds.
The healthcare system in Pennsylvania is at the brink of collapse. People continue to come with strokes, heart attacks, car accidents. It's hard to get them out of the ambulance because we don't have a place in the emergency department to put them.
And tonight in the UK, where Omicron cases are doubling every 2 to 3 days, preliminary data suggesting 2 doses of the Pfizer vaccine may be just 30% effective in protecting against symptomatic infection from the Omicron variant. But a booster shot increased protection up to 75%.
Although we don't have all the answers on the Omicron variant, initial data suggests that COVID-19 boosters help to bolster protection against Omicron.
The Omicron variant now detected in half this country. Most of the 43 cases were in vaccinated people, but just 1 person was hospitalized.
Most people experienced only mild symptoms, which is what we would expect from a group of fully vaccinated individuals.
This as the booster rollout expands to 16 and 17-year-olds.
We have ours, but you don't feel safe till your kids are safe.
Joining us now, Whit Johnson. Now, Whit, there's a new forecast out tonight on COVID cases for the coming weeks. What does that show?
Yeah, Juju, this new analysis out from Policy Lab shows a significant growth in cases across much of the country and especially the Northeast. In New York City and surrounding areas, they're expecting COVID cases to double through December. Similar growth is already occurring from Baltimore up to Boston. Juju?
We know you'll stay on it. Whit Johnson, thank you. And now to the trial of former Minnesota police officer Kim Potter over the fatal shooting of Daunte Wright. Today, we saw dramatic new video showing a struggle inside Wright's car and what Officer Potter said in anguish after she shot him with her gun instead of her taser. Here's ABC's Stephanie Ramos.
Tonight, the prosecution presenting this new video as it makes its case against former Brooklyn Center police officer Kim Potter, showing the moments right after she shot and killed Daunte Wright. Potter saying she meant to use her taser.
Oh my God, what have I done?
An officer on the scene fearing Potter would harm herself.
Kim, I'm going to take this but give you mine, okay?
No, just let me kill myself, like.
No, that's not happening, Kim.
Potter crying today as the videos were presented in court, putting her head in her hands. During that traffic stop in April, officers tried to arrest Wright for a misdemeanor warrant.
You're under arrest, Daunte.
That body camera footage belonging to Officer Michael Johnson. You see him open the passenger door as Wright struggles with the officer Potter was training. Johnson attempts to put the car in park as Wright gets shot, all in a matter of seconds.
And then what happened? And then I heard a loud pop.
And Stephanie Ramos joining us tonight. Stephanie, I take it we're seeing the defense and prosecution's theories of the case taking shape at this point.
You're exactly right, Juju. We are seeing that the defense focusing on justified use of force given rights resistance, and the prosecution shifting away from the right Potter may have had to use deadly force, saying that Potter's actions endangered those around her. Testimony continues on Monday. We will be watching. Juju.
We certainly will. Steph Ramos, thank you. And in the nation's capital tonight, former Senator and Republican presidential candidate Bob Dole was laid to rest at a moving ceremony at the National Cathedral. President Biden delivered a eulogy for his friend who always had a, quote, willingness to see the other side. Dole passed away at the age of 98. And now to the major coast-to-coast storm and the tornado threat for millions tonight. The system dumping heavy snow on the Rockies and causing this massive accident in Minnesota there. And as it moves east, a very dangerous night ahead for the Ohio Valley and parts of the South. And a major weather change is coming for the East Coast. Our chief meteorologist, Ginger Z, is tracking it all, of course. Good evening to you, Ginger.
Hey, good evening to you, Juju. Yes, we've got a tornado watch now expanding just moments ago from parts of Missouri into Illinois. But earlier, we already had this one that includes Paducah, southern Illinois and Indiana. We'll get into this action back to Little Rock and, yes, parts of Tennessee and Mississippi. So that's where the tornado watch is, meaning that all the ingredients are together right now. We're already starting to see warnings pop just in the last couple of minutes. So if anyone lives or knows someone within the areas highlighted here, this is a night where you cannot not have a way to get warning because the sun is down. You're not going to see things coming or changing. It is going to happen quickly. And we know tornadoes will happen tonight. We also know there will be a very long line of damaging winds. So those that don't get the tornadoes have a threat of 70-plus-mile-per-hour winds. You're going to see trees into homes and cars inevitably by tomorrow morning. Again, this happens overnight. And so anybody in that severe threat from Ohio, that includes Cincinnati, back to northern Louisiana, like Alexandria or northern Mississippi, has to be on the lookout. That same front has to keep plodding east. And so we will see it by tomorrow night here in the Northeast along the I-95 corridor. Yes, it's going to mean some downpours, but it's also going to mean gusts up to 40 miles per hour. By the way, part of what's fueling this, record heat. And we saw it from Jackson, Mississippi and New Orleans today, and will tomorrow see 10 to 30 degrees above average. Some people, like Philadelphia, will be closing in around 70 in December. So you know something's up, Juju.
Lots of treacherous weather ahead. Thanks to you, Ginger. And when we come back, the horror on the bridge. More than 50 people killed and why the survivors ran in fear after the tragic accident. The plagiarism trial that Taylor Swift just can't shake off. But up next, with the Senate now considering a bill to tackle sex assault allegations in the military, we speak with the sister of Vanessa Guillen. Next.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
It was a scary time in the 70s. You had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it, serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it.
Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I risked my life. I put my family in danger. If I was caught, they would have put a bullet in my head. But it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do.
Terror plot foiled in Garden City, Kansas.
That would have been one of the most deadly acts of domestic terrorism ever in the United States.
It would have been Oklahoma City.
He put his family, himself, in jeopardy for us.
Assault on the Capitol, the ABC News original, exclusively on Hulu, now streaming. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
National parks are incredibly safe places. A crime will happen.
Hey, my wife has fallen. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
Take a look at this disturbing mid-air confrontation. A passenger accused of assaulting a flight attendant and then an air marshal. The passenger was later restrained in a seat. This all took place on a D.C. to L.A. flight that was diverted to Oklahoma City. The passenger was booked for disorderly conduct and public drunkenness. One person telling ABC News that this all began after he refused to wear a mask. While displays of bipartisanship are few and far between these days, earlier this week, both parties came together to pass the annual defense policy bill. And that bill also included historic reforms to how the military investigates and prosecutes sexual assault and harassment cases under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The same military code now makes sexual harassment a crime. Joining us now is one of the people who has been driving forces in making sure these kinds of incidents no longer go unreported, and that is the sister of slain soldier Vanessa Guillen, Maida Guillen, and her attorney Natalie Kawam. Thank you both for being here with us.
Thank you.
Maida, let's begin with you. The day the bill passed, you tweeted something very poignant. You said, "These tears are of both joy and sadness combined. This long-awaited time, Vanessa, our family, love goes above and beyond, rather. I hope you're proud." First of all, Maida, how are you and your family doing? And did you all feel proud of yourselves for the change that you've championed for so long?
You know, this has been a very hard time for us, these almost 2 years. You know, fighting for justice and fighting for what's right has been very exhausting, very, you know, there's a trauma to all of this, but thank God that we're here today.
And what was the most gratifying part of that day for you, Maida?
You know, seeing the way that my sister is being honored is something that you don't get to see every day, you know? There's many cases that happen every day, and she's being honored in the best way possible for her service and for what she had to endure to make sure that other victims don't suffer what she did.
And Natalie, let me turn it to you. One of the biggest changes in the bill is the removal of the commander of a military command from decisions related to the prosecution of these types of crimes. The Army report from earlier this year found that Vanessa had been harassed by her supervisor, who, to be clear, is not the same soldier who murdered her. But how big of a change is this systemically for the military? And do you think this move could potentially save people like Vanessa's lives in the future?
Yeah, I absolutely do believe that a lot of lives will be saved after this because they now have protections they never had before. They now have an outlet to be able to report misconduct. Before, they never had that. They had to go through the chain of command through somebody that probably wouldn't believe them. Commanders are there to fight a war and teach our soldiers how to win a war. They're not there to be the judge and jury of whether sexual harassment or sexual assault existed. That's an unfair situation for both the victim and the person who has to make that decision without the training that they need. And I'm proud of this monumental change, this change in legislation, which has, people have tried to do this for decades, and we got it done, and I'm so proud.
It is a monumental change. And Myra, the bill still has to pass through the Senate. Have you been working with those senators to make sure that those hurdles are overcome to make it a bipartisan effort?
Yes, you know, we've visited several number of offices. throughout the last 2 to 3 months. Natalie and myself, this is something very personal. And I feel like our voices must be heard in order to make these changes possible. And, it's very important to make sure to point out that, Senator Gillibrand was a major advocate in this as a senator herself. And Senator Hirono has always been supporting us since day one, even with the I Am Vanessa Guillen Act that started off with last year, trying to figure out when the vote will happen and hopefully be there in person to see this history being done.
And so, Natalie, I know you're also pursuing not just the legislative angle, but also multiple ongoing criminal and civil cases in the murder of Vanessa. Where do things stand on those cases?
So in the prosecution of Cecily Aguilar, January 20th, we're resuming trial, and she has filed a motion to dismiss the case against her. We believe it's frivolous, and we hope that the court sees the same, but we'll be there to make sure that justice is served. With this accomplishment, with this legislation, it's not just monumental and epic. It's literally like the most incredible change in our military. And it's provided a legacy for Vanessa. And it's provided protections for all our soldiers. And that's where justice for Vanessa has been achieved. However, we still have the looming criminal case pending. And so we'll deal with that as it comes. But we believe that the court will see right through this and make sure that this never happens again.
And so, Myra, to wrap up, what's next for you and your family and your mission to make sure that Vanessa's memory continues on?
Well, we will certainly keep working until the goal that we had is reached 100%. Next year, we do plan to keep advocating and make sure that these changes are done as we wished in the beginning. Hopefully, it happens. And, my family's day by day trying to have a normal life again after these traumatic past year and a half. So, we're slowly but surely trying to, be the family that we were before. And even though we have a great absence among us, I know that she's very proud to see what we were capable of doing in her honor.
It's a powerful legacy made through no small part of both of yours, Myra Guillen and Natalie Kawam. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All the best. And still ahead here on Prime, how one of the most prestigious streets in America is fighting back against the spike in smash grab robberies. Could Julian Assange finally soon be on his way to the U.S.? And why Legos could actually be one of the smartest investments out there. We take a look by the numbers. But first, our tweet of the day. She starred in over 100 telenovelas, and it was on the set of one of them where she collapsed. Today, the family of Carmen Salinas telling the world she's left us.
An extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do you evade capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive? Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new Hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
It was a scary time. In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it, serial killer.
There was a human head in there. This was premeditated evil.
We have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
World News Now.
And America This Morning.
The best new video.
The breaking news overnight.
Emergency crews called to the town of Surfside.
U.S. airstrikes hitting targets in Iraq and Syria.
The stories people are talking about.
If you don't want to shave your legs, don't. I was going to say.
Oh my. Got it.
and what to expect in the day ahead.
ABC World News Now and America This Morning.
Starting at 2 a.m. Eastern.
Up all night to keep you up to date.
Right now, with so much at stake, Sunday mornings, this is the place. Taking on all the tough questions, straightforward reporting, no spin, no hype, no bull. See why Sunday mornings, more and more Americans are now turning first to ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos.
Welcome to This Week.
Let's do this! When you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, darling, I'll be by your side. I'll be there by your side. I'll be everything you wanted. I'll be there by your side. If you need a light to shine in, hold up your hand, let the stars shoot again, let the light shine in through the dark.
Good morning, America.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back. We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
And welcome back. Are you planning to buy a Lego set this holiday? If so, you might get more than just a toy, but potentially a real smart investment if you're patient. Here's a look by the numbers. The value of discontinued, unopened Lego sets can increase 11% every year, making them a better investment than large stocks, bonds, rare wines, even gold. That's according to a study published in Research in International Business and Finance. But you'll only make a profit in the long run, 3 years at minimum. And while it's best to invest in either small or huge sets, not medium sets apparently, rarity is the most important feature. An example, $2.99. That's what the price of Mr. Gold minifigures were in 2013. Now it sells for about $2,000 in the secondary market. Lego is the #1 largest toy maker in the world, taking that title away from Barbie doll maker Mattel back in 2014. And Lego continues to grow. Consumer sales soared 36%. Net profits shot up 140% in just the past 6 months. And here's a few fun facts. 2 million. That's how many Lego bricks are produced every hour. Roughly 4 billion, the number of Lego people figures that exist, and that's more than double the population of China. And finally, 953 pounds. That's how much force a Lego brick is built to withstand before breaking, which is why it hurts so much to step on one. Every parent can relate. Been there, done that. And still ahead here on Prime, what we know about the secrets to long life and one key that may surprise you. And the remarkable story about a group of police officers making a difference in some tough communities. And the game uniting them with kids who live in them. But first, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
Stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
It's an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do you evade capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues. The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
National parks are incredibly safe places. Crime will happen.
Hey, Mama. My wife has fallen. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart that he did this.
It's the time of suspicion. The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back. We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Well, a sobering report on inflation did not seem to spook investors on Wall Street today. Prices for U.S. consumers increased 6.8% in November compared to this time last year. That is the highest annual inflation rate since 1982. Despite the report, stocks made broad gains during afternoon trading, where the Dow rose 216 points.
Shelter costs, such as rent, are the highest they've been since 2007. At the pump, gasoline is up 58% compared to this time last year.
Cities across America are being rocked by those smash and grab robberies. Beverly Hills' iconic shopping mecca of Rodeo Drive, another choice target. Rodeo Drive now bristles with security cameras. There are barriers, bulletproof glass, and constant patrols by Beverly Hills police.
We've doubled private security patrols that the city's helped us hire. We're hiring more police officers. You'll see as you go around multiple camera systems, over 2,000 cameras in the city. We're working on drones in the next few weeks to help protect the city.
Those smash and grabs also outside of Chicago and in Cary, North Carolina.
They're not just taking from me, they're taking from my children. I'm a single mom, and this is how I support my kids.
Authorities are now investigating the death of former NFL star Demaryius Thomas, found dead in his home outside Atlanta. Police now believe it was a medical issue. His family says he suffered seizures. A Super Bowl winning wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, he was just 33.
There's still 10 players on this team that played with him, a bunch of coaches that coached him. Seeing and feeling their reaction and hurt just tells me what a special player DT was.
Racing legend Al Unser has lost a 17-year battle with cancer, dying at his home in New Mexico, his wife by his side. He was one of only 4 drivers to win the Indy 500, a record 4 times. His final victory at the age of 47, making him the oldest winner in Indy 500 history. He was 82.
She just can't seem to shake off this lawsuit. Taylor Swift will face a jury over accusations she plagiarized lyrics for her hit 2014 song, Shake It Off. The bad blood coming from the songwriters behind the 2001 3LW song, Play Is Gonna Play, who say their lines, player's gonna play and hater's gonna hate, are too similar to Swift. The lawsuit was originally dismissed in 2018, a judge at the time calling the lyrics too banal to be copyrighted, and a representative for Swift agrees, saying they're common phrases. But now, whether it's common vernacular or plagiarism will be something for a jury to decide.
An appeal court in London has overturned a lower court's decision and said WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange could be extradited to the U.S., where he faces 17 counts of espionage. Earlier, a judge had denied extradition after Assange's lawyers maintained his mental health was too fragile to undergo the U.S. criminal justice system. Another appeal is likely.
How can they accept an extradition to the country that plotted to kill Julian, that plotted to kill a publisher because of what he published?
'Tis the season for a new British royals family photo. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge were all smiles in the snap posted to their Instagram, capturing the rocky terrain of Jordan behind them. You can see Prince William and Kate along with 8-year-old Prince George, 6-year-old Princess Charlotte, and 3-year-old Prince Louis. How time flies. It's a stark difference from last year, pictured isolating at their Norfolk country home. On Instagram, the photo already raking up over 1 million likes.
And welcome back. At a time when trust in law enforcement is low in some parts, the Watts neighborhood in Los Angeles has a program run by police officers to help give underprivileged children a shot at success while building trust in the community. It all happens on a football field. Here's ABC's Will Carr.
Under the bright lights, these kids are learning to pass, catch, and run with the ball on the only turf seen for miles.
Who's the fastest here? Who's the fastest?
I'm the fastest.
These kids certainly don't lack confidence, and while this is practice, this football program is tackling much more than X's and O's.
I'm gonna crack somebody.
Whoever over here at the X, they're running the post.
If the helmets look familiar, that navy blue with the yellow horn, that's because the kids are wearing Los Angeles Rams gear. They may live in the same city as the pros, but in many ways, they're a world away. Watts Rams, though, are navigating a path to victory. They're just one game away from the Pee Wee Championship and the chance to play in SoFi Stadium, host of this season's Super Bowl. For 14-year-old Johnny Howes, it's the opportunity of a lifetime.
I always dreamed about it as a kid. I don't have words for it. I mean, I imagine all the fans just standing up. If I score a touchdown, throw a touchdown, get a sack, anything.
This team is all about making those dreams come true, both on and off the field.
Rams 45, slot reverse. 1, 2, 3. Run to the ball.
And the coach's duties don't stop after the last whistle blows. That's because the team is coached by LAPD cops serving the underprivileged neighborhood of Watts.
Hey, partner, you ready to go?
Officers Steve Rodriguez and Jose Soto gear up to make one of their regular visits to the schools in the area.
Is there any other kids that are out there right now at recess?
But they're not here to make arrests.
Hey, sweetheart. How are you? Are we picking you up tomorrow?
Instead, they're checking on their players.
How you guys doing? We're visiting. We're just visiting. Hello, guys. We just want to say hi. We're just here to say hello. Hey, how are you?
It's all part of a proactive effort to bridge the trust gap between members of law enforcement and a community where the roots of distrust run deep.
6 days of rioting in a Negro section of Los Angeles left behind scenes reminiscent of war-torn cities.
In 1965, an altercation between highway patrol officers and 2 black motorists sparked the Watts riots. The violence lasted for 6 days and left 34 people dead, more than 1,000 injured, and many more behind bars. LA would see similar turmoil again nearly 30 years later, following the police beating of Rodney King. And most recently, civil unrest erupting in the wake of the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, leaving an impact on a new generation. For Johnny, the Watts Rams has become a second family, and his mom has noticed a big difference.
That's all he does is dream and sleep, playing football. Grades have gone up, chores at home, respectable. They've got him to be a nice young man.
No walking.
Back on the field, these young players don't see cops, just coaches.
1, 2, 3.
Sarah Thompson, the players call him Coach Z, started the team back in 2011.
Wild dream, took 30 kids from different housing developments within the South LA. Started a team with 30. Now we're over 100 plus.
You're not only here with these kids, you're also out in the streets. You're seeing it day in and day out.
The relationship with the police and the community, it's getting better. So a lot of parents, a lot of families are buying into what we're doing, but we still have that little trust issue.
13-year-old Lucille Hall has seen the trust issues firsthand.
When they came up to see my grades at the school, they came in all their police gear and stuff. You know, I go to a mainly black school, and like everybody was like, oh no, and everybody was just scared. This one kid, I think, started crying, and like I was like, nah, they're cool, like they're chill, like these are like police that you could like trust.
On a team that welcomes both boys and girls, Lucille proudly wears a pink mouth guard, and she's getting used to the feel of a helmet and shoulder pads.
Y'all ready to play? Yes, sir.
It's changing her perception not only of the game, but of law enforcement as well.
One of my cousins, he got shot by the police, and like it was just like a lot for like my whole family. And that's when I was like, nah, I don't ever like want to be associated with police. And now I see like that, wow, like police actually like, they're not all like the same, you know?
Johnny, who has aspirations of one day repping the NFL Rams, shares a similar experience.
I had a family member gunned down, and the police weren't doing anything about it. And then I always thought they were lazy, didn't do nothing. And I came to the Watts Rams, and I realized how hard they work.
So when you think about police officers now, what do you think?
I think they're heroes.
There's gangs in the community. There's overpopulated schools in the community. So they're dealing with stuff that I dealt with as a kid growing up in South LA myself. Like I always say, I know my babies are safe from 6 o'clock to 8.
You just called them your babies. Why do you call them your babies?
Now you're about to make me choke up, but I tell them all the time, I love you guys like you're my own.
When we talk about just drugs and gangs and all those things, they're here, you know, but it doesn't define what the community represents. These kids, they want to be more than that. But what this program does is it allows them to become a part of something else that belongs to the community in such a meaningful and impactful way.
In 2017, the Los Angeles Rams sponsored the team.
I fell in love with the program and the vision and what was possible. I was confident if the Rams came in, we could really kind of add rocket fuel to what they were already doing and make it even better.
Rams providing uniforms, a state-of-the-art field, and the chance to meet NFL players and coaches. One of the biggest treats was the chance to compete in the Pee Wee Championships at SoFi Stadium. And this year, the Little Rams did just that. Battling it out, but ultimately suffering defeat, leaving the players with tears in their eyes.
You win some, lose some, homie. No big deal.
And while they say football is a game of inches, for the Watts Rams, it's a game of connections, bonding residents and cops, players and coaches,
1, 2, 3.
building a team that's winning even after it's lost.
Our thanks to Will Carr. Now we're tracking several headlines around the world as well. A migrant tragedy after a large trailer overturned in Mexico. Over 100 people are injured and dozens are dead. A coalition of organizations is calling on the Mexican government to investigate the cause of the accident. According to the UN Migration Agency, this latest incident puts the global migrant death toll at over 4,400 for this year alone. In Spain, people waded through floodwaters and used inflatable boats after a river broke its banks. The water is covering parks, entering homes, and cutting off roads. Local media reporting the flooding caused the worst damage in 20 years. And take a look at this. Researchers in Japan have developed masks that use ostrich antibodies to detect COVID-19 by glowing under ultraviolet light. In a small study, test subjects wore the masks, and after 8 hours, the filters were removed and sprayed with a chemical that glows under ultraviolet light if the virus is present. The team hopes to further develop the masks so that they will glow automatically without special lighting if the virus is detected. And joining us now is Dan Buettner, the New York Times bestselling author and founder of Blue Zones. It's an organization seeking to provide people with the tools to live longer, healthier, and happier lives. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, Dan, from Miami.
I'm delighted.
Well, in your new book, The Blue Zone Challenge, you provide a 4-week guide to those looking for a longer, better life, and that's pretty much all of us. You model your guide off of so-called blue zones. Can you first break down for us what those blue zones are?
Yeah, so it was a National Geographic project to reverse engineer longevity. And because only 20% of how long you live is dictated by your genes, the other 80% is something else. We found the statistically longest lived places in Sardinia, Italy, Okinawa, Japan, the island of Ikaria, Greece, the Nicoya Peninsula of Costa Rica, and among the Seventh-day Adventists in the United States here. And then over the next decade, we searched for the common denominators or the correlates, and we believe we found a pretty convincing set of guidelines and wisdom distilled from people who've achieved the outcomes we want.
And we're just clicking through some of the images of you hanging out with those clearly long-lived people in these various parts throughout the globe. You begin your book by breaking down the power of 9 that you describe to be the habits of the world's healthiest and longest living people. And these are people, as you mentioned, people from Greece, Japan, Costa Rica. What are those commonalities that you discovered in your research?
Yeah, so these are people who are not suffering from diabetes and heart disease and many of the cancers that are foreshortening our lives. And you see, they don't exercise as much as they live in environments where they're nudged into movement every 20 minutes or so. So walkable communities, they have gardens out back, their houses aren't full of conveniences, they have sacred daily rituals to reduce the stress of everyday life. 65% of their dietary intake comes from complex carbohydrates. This is largely a whole food, plant-based diet. And by the way, eating this way can confer about 6 extra years of life expectancy over eating the standard American diet.
So less processed food, clearly. Now, give us a sense of some of those rituals that you talked about. That's intriguing to me. What are those things that help with longevity?
Yeah, so every time you're in a hurry or feel worried or stressed, it triggers the inflammatory response, and inflammation is at the root of every major age-related disease. So in Okinawa, they spend a few minutes every day remembering their ancestors, where they came from. In Costa Rica, what we're looking at now, they tend to take a nap. Same with Greece, what we're looking at right now. Taking a nap 5 days a week is associated with about a third lower rate of cardiovascular disease. And then in the Adventists just say prayer. They tend to start their day and their meals with the prayer. And that in its own way is meditation as well. The Sardinians just do happy hour, which, believe it or not, is a good way to downshift. And this is Sardinia right here.
I see. And I see, the happy hour wine cooler behind you. I see you're taking your practice as well as...
Soon after this interview.
Absolutely. And so what do you think makes these places so special? Is there anything scientifically different about these blue zones?
They say they have the same genes we have. They have the same level of discipline and self-control, but what they have that we don't is environments that make the healthy choice the easy choice. And this is the big insight, because we tend to think, especially with the holidays coming up, that we're going to make New Year's resolutions and get on a new diet. And no diet in the history of the world has ever worked for more than 3% of the people after 2 years. The reason people in blue zones are living a long time is because the healthiest food is cheapest and most accessible.
I'm dying to know how you suggest we inject purpose into our lives. But short of moving to Greece, which after looking at that video I want to do, you ask readers to give the plan 30 days. What specific things can people do in 30 days that you think will help people live longer?
Yeah, the first, I'm not going to ask them to dip into self-control. I'm going to ask them to shape their surroundings. The big thing, though, is to really pay attention to your immediate social circle, those 3 or 4 friends that you spend the most time with. We know that if your 3 best friends are obese and unhealthy, there's a 150% better chance that you'll be overweight yourself. So we're going to show you how to curate your social circle to have a few more friends whose idea of recreation is walking or playing pickleball. It's eating plant-based, and people who care about you on a bad day. And that's probably the most powerful thing you can do for the future to change your healthy habits, because when it comes to longevity, there's no short-term fix. There's no pill, there's no supplement, there's no superfood If you're not going to do something for years or decades, it's not going to add years to your life. And the Blue Zone Challenge takes you over the course of 4 weeks, holds you by the hand and shows you how to engineer your surroundings so you will unconsciously make the better choice all day long.
I have to say that with the new year right around the corner, many of us are going to make resolutions to live a healthier, more meaningful new year. And yet so often people struggle to make that lasting change, right? What advice would you give someone who's looking for long-term change in the new year?
Well, it goes back again to not thinking you're going to change your behavior. We never successfully change your behavior, but shaping your environment. So again, we're asking you to engineer your surroundings, not trying to change your mind, not asking you to be disciplined, not asking you to exert inhuman self-control.
Well, Dan, I've been scribbling notes the entire time you've been talking. Thank you, Dan Buettner. Your new book, The Blue Zone Challenge, is available wherever books are sold. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers.
And coming up, our colleague Michael Strahan is set to go to space tomorrow. What those final preps look like.
More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source. This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
All right, we're gonna move back. Let's move back. We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
We're on an urgent delivery run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
Admit it, these days, what you need to know
Seems to change just about every day.
what is it that you really want to know, need to know,
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter,
feel better.
feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
The ladies you love, the hottest topics happening now. There's only one place to find it all.
You guys are having the hard conversations. I love The View.
The most watched #1 daytime talk show is The View. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It was a scary time.
In the 70s, you had multiple bodies showing up in Los Angeles.
There were so many murders happening. You had to have a name for it, serial killer.
There was a human head in there.
This was premeditated evil.
You have this clock. This person is going to do this again.
It's me against the killer. Who's going to win?
We'll see who laughs last.
What came next was unlike anything they had ever seen.
When you wake up in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, darling, I'll be by your side. I'll be there by your side. I'll be everything you wanted. I'll be there by your side. If you need a light to shine in, hold up your hand, let the stars shoot again, let the light shine in through the dark.
Good morning, America.
ABC News honored winner of 9 Edward R. Murrow Awards, more than any other network, including winning for the 3rd straight year the award for overall excellence in television. ABC News is America's #1 news source. With so much at stake, more Americans turn here than any other newscast. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 newscast and the #1 program on television.
The Boos are back. Ram is stressed out right now.
That is hilarious. You're watching a video game tournament in Orlando, Florida, where this older couple became the darling of the traditionally younger fighting game community. The crowd booing their opponents relentlessly throughout the set. While neither of them won the tournament, they became the heroes and won the hearts of the crowd. You can see them getting high fives and fist pumps there. They are planning now to run a local tournament of their own in February. Let's hear it for the middle-aged people. Now we're closing in on the final countdown to Michael Strahan's launch into space with Blue Origin. Here's ABC's Gio Benitez with the final preps.
Tonight, we're just hours away from Michael Strahan's launch into space, and our cameras are right there as he and the crew get their final training lesson.
At this point, your training is complete. I am no longer your instructor, I am your evaluator.
They run through a launch simulation.
Main engine start.
Joining Michael, Laura Shepard Churchley, the daughter of Alan Shepard, the first American in space. The launch had been delayed because of strong winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Blue Origin watching that closely.
Parachutes come out right around 10,000 feet. That is completely at the mercy of the winds at this point. So if those winds are really strong at 10,000 feet, it can actually blow our capsule outside of our landing area.
Meanwhile, Michael saying he's ready to blast off.
Excited about tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Ooh, our thanks to Gio, and let's go, Michael. Of course, we're going to have complete coverage of Michael Strahan's liftoff to space tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern right here, on ABC News Live. And at 8 Eastern Saturday, our primetime special Liftoff to Space with Michael Strahan. And before we go tonight, the image of the day. How could this not catch our eye? It actually happened late yesterday, a funnel cloud looming over the city of Rome. Romantic. That's our show for this hour. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks for streaming with us. Have a great weekend.
This is an ABC News Live special.